Welcome back. The Wisconsin Elections Commission announced that absentee ballots requested for the April election exceeded 1 million requests. And due to the number of absentee ballots requested, it took an additional week to get those official results in. And back in April, Chris Schuler sat down with the Brown County clerk and a political expert for more on this confusing and controversial spring election.
At Alloway Village Hall, absentee ballots are being processed for the first ever election in the age of the coronavirus. An election that left many in Green Bay and Milwaukee waiting in line for hours to vote.
This is just kind of ridiculous because this is the first time I've seen something this long. You know, I'm usually in and out.
This is no way to conduct an election. This should not happen in November should we be under similar circumstances.
Last Friday, Governor Evers, through executive order, tried to eliminate in-person voting because of the coronavirus while giving voters extra time to return absentee ballots. State GOP went to the courts, which struck down the governor's order, and Election Day was back on.
Having the back and forth, should the election occur, should it not occur, that all created confusion, and that's certainly not an ideal situation.
Magny says because of COVID-19 and a lack of poll workers, some municipalities operated only a handful of voting sites, which caused long delays. And he thinks the sheer volume of absentee ballot requests may have overwhelmed some municipal clerks.
That essentially put a huge burden on municipal clerks to get those requests, process them, send them out, and then now they're having to deal with all the envelopes coming back in.
Those absentee ballots are required to have been postmarked by the 7th and must be returned to municipal clerks by 4 p.m. April 13th to count.
There's still another almost 22,000 that are outstanding. We don't know if those will come back in or not.
Brown County Clerk Sandy Juneau says after 4 p.m. next Monday, unofficial results will be released.
They will bring their memory sticks with the data to the county clerk's office, which we will upload into our program and post on our website.
But political expert Michael Kraft says it's possible all the confusion surrounding this past election could indeed lead to a lawsuit.
I could see some kind of citizen class action lawsuit against the state of Wisconsin to say I was denied my right to vote.
In Alloway, Chris Schuler, Local 5 News.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, back now with Megan Wolf, the administrator with the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Now, Megan, we have reports of missing absentee ballots in that April election. What can you tell us? Were they missing? Were they just late? What was that situation?
Well, after the April 7th election, from the state perspective, and again, we put together the infrastructure for local election officials to be able to do things like track and issue their absentee ballots. We don't send them. Each of the 1,850 local election jurisdictions does. So using that data that they entered into the system, after the election, we dug into all of the data to try to see what we could learn from it. To make sure that we learn our lessons from April and we're able to improve the process as we head into November. And we also worked with the Postal Service. They did an investigation as well. And I think there's a few things at play here. One is our law allows voters to make their request up until the Thursday before an election. The guidance from the U.S. Postal Service is that ballots can take up to a week to arrive, or a week to be returned by the voter to the clerks. And that's true of all mail. And so that being said, if someone makes their request on Thursday before an election, the likelihood that they'll get their ballot by Tuesday, depending on where they are and how their mail service operates, that may not be a reality for them. And so making sure that voters know if they choose to cast their ballot using an absentee ballot by mail, please act early. You can put in your request for an absentee ballot now. If you're looking to request your absentee ballot for the August election or for the November presidential election, both of those are options for you to put in your request now if that's the option that you choose. If a voter chooses to utilize one of the in-person options, we're also going to be working to make sure that those are safe and secure as well. And so, you know, voters, the sooner that you choose the option that you think is going to be best for you, the more likelihood that you'll be able to receive your ballot and get it back to your clerk on time, because the law does say that all absentee ballots must be received by your polling place no later than 8 p.m. on election day. Now in April, the courts intervened and extended that time period for receipt, but the law says that all those ballots have to be back by Election Day. So again, the sooner that a voter can act, that's the greater likelihood of success that they're going to receive their ballot, they're going to be able to get it back. And if there is a problem, we now have what's called intelligent mail barcodes as part of our mail process, so you can track your ballot. If there is a problem in that transmission, if you request your ballot early, you'd be able to request a replacement if it did not get to you in time, if it was lost in the mail. So acting early is really, really a critical thing that we all need to do as we head into the November election.
Now, as we just heard, there were more than 1 million absentee requests for April. You know what August and November is going to bring. Has your office braced itself for that eventuality?
So historically, the state of Wisconsin, most people vote in person at the polls on Election Day. And so about 6% of people historically had cast their ballot by absentee by mail. And we saw over 60% in April. And so to that extent, yes, making sure that all of our systems, as well as our local election officials, again, they're the ones that are actually issuing those ballots, are prepared for that larger volume as they head into the November election. And so that means that a lot of the things that were maybe paper-driven processes in the past, putting an address on an envelope with a pen and putting on a stamp, that's not going to cut it when you're issuing a larger volume. And so helping them to create more efficient processes at the local level is something that we've really been focusing on and working with our local election partners, as well as with voters to understand what their expectations are in terms of being able to request and track their ballots electronically, and building those interfaces to increase transparency is also a major initiative as we head into November.
We have more with Megan Wolf right after this break, so stay with us.